Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square, and it's Monday morning, so welcome to the weekly assignment. That's when executive producer Sam Osterhout and I talk to you about what's coming up on Lincoln Square this week, the latest headlines, and what we can all do to fight back against authoritarianism. So happy President's Day, everyone. I know that probably if you've paused a little bit about how do we really celebrate this day, given who's in the White House. That's been a thought on my mind. Now this is the 6th year I've thought about it. But Sam, I'm sure that for you, this day is probably one where your kids don't have school, so you have to juggle everything. But what are your thoughts about this President's Day in a time where Donald Trump has decided that everything to do with the presidency has to do with him? And he wants to put his name on everything. Our national parks pass, I think we have that. Trump Kennedy Center, which he now closed. He wants Dulles Airport named after him. So, what do you think? How do we observe President's Day when we have a president who wants to be a king?
Well, Elaine Levin in the chat says Happy Democrat President's Day only. And I appreciate that. I do, but we shouldn't have to say that, right? I think about, there's the picture of Trump in Washington here. And I think, a big part of the founding story and the mythology and all of this is that Washington stepped down, and that was such a revolutionary act, and he ceded power and gave it to someone else. And I think I want to kind of refocus on that just a little bit, because it was more than just about a transference of government, right? It was about the taking the personality out of leadership, or taking the personal desire for gain and power out of the leadership. Early representatives and senators had day jobs, and they couldn't be in Washington all the time. And it was a burden to serve, but a real duty to serve. And that's no longer the case, right? It's not, Trump isn't doing some civic good for all of us. He's getting the shit out of us.
Yeah, I mean, how much money has his family made just in this first year of his second term? I mean,
billions.
Right. Like literally the presidency was Trump's way to become a true billionaire. Yes. This was the exact opposite of what the founding fathers had in mind. He has really found so many creative ways to break our system. I want to give a shout out to a column that we ran today by University of Michigan professor Don Moynihan, who we've had on several times. And it's a really great look at some of the behind the scenes things that Trump is doing to really break the civil service and to fire non-political appointees, because that's really all he wants in his government is a bunch of loyalists. That is a great look at some of the things that are going on that don't make the headlines, but are extremely damaging.
It is, and everything is connected. I mean, I just taped a conversation with Brian Datesman from The Intellectualist about crypto, and I know most of you are in tune out when you hear the word crypto, but it is a deeply fascinating and engrossing conversation because it's connected to what we're talking about now. Everything is a grift. Everything is extractive. This presidency serves one person and one person only, and it is Donald Trump. And, we talk about Homan and we talk about Noem and we talk about Bondi, and they exist to serve Donald Trump.
Right.
The whole structure of presidency and governance and our Congress is gone. The Supreme Court is essentially a branch of the executive now, of the Republican executive. We have reshaped in a year the way that our government operates, and it is no longer meant to serve you or me or anyone watching. It is meant to serve one person.
Absolutely. And you can see it everywhere. with what Trump has been doing. And whenever I see anyone from the administration speaking, I would say especially Kristi Noem these days, because the rumors have been flying that she is out soon. All they're doing is speaking to Trump. I mean, Pam Bondi's just embarrassing performance in front of Congress last week, where she could not have degraded the Epstein victims more. She wouldn't even look at them. That entire performance, her shouting about the Dow is over 50,000. I mean, literally, she's just having a conversation with Donald Trump. The rest of us don't even have to be there. And Sam, you flagged this one clip by Kristi Noem that I think really encapsulates this.
Secretary Noem made some comments that Democratic leader Schumer just commented on earlier in the show. I want to play them for you.
It may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to election day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country.
So what does she mean when she says electing the right leaders? That's not really immigration enforcement or DHS responsibility.
I don't know. That'd be a question for the secretary. If I had to guess, probably that only those legally eligible to vote would vote. But I have not talked to the secretary about those statements. That'd be something she'd have to answer.
Well, first of all, I think it's pretty clear that Tom Homan and Kristi Noem absolutely hate each other. So I think that's the subtext. But the bright flashing light to me, from Kristi Noem threatening fair and free elections, just like, she's placing her lunch order, on a Tuesday, was she is desperate to keep that job. And so even though this has nothing to do with Homeland Security, she is just out there working it for Donald Trump, saying, keep me here. Sorry about the story about me leaving my blankie on the plane that clearly Tom Homan had a lot to do with, leaking all that. But I mean,
he did? Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
palace
clearly
intrigue.
the opposition research was coming from within the House. But, look, this is somebody who, does not want the grift to end. Those private planes that she and Corey Lewandowski fly on, they don't pay for themselves. We pay for them, the taxpayers.
That is it.
Yeah, and she doesn't want that to end.
Look, I think that while we're talking about what we pay for, right? We pay for Trump's trips. We pay for everyone's airplanes. Kash Patel. We pay for a country singer's security detail.
That he's dating.
Who he's dating. Yeah. And also, doesn't even matter if he's dating. If we were like, oh, yeah, this is a thing that I absolutely voted for, that all of my tax money should go to these things. But I think the most despicable thing, and one that's also tied to all of this, is that we're paying for massive warehouses to store human beings, and detain them for I don't know how long, in wretched conditions. What you spend your money on tells you what you value. Right. And everyone out there, you don't value this. I don't value that. This has to change.
Yeah. I mean, there has been some just absolutely heart-wrenching reporting about the Dilley Detention Center in particular down in Texas, where it's a warehouse for children. And, there is no legal right to keep children there for months on end and in those conditions. But unfortunately, our court system has not caught up. And there are children who are getting sick, who are being mistreated. And this is one of the greatest shames of this administration. And there's just been some excellent reporting out there that, definitely you should read if you have a strong stomach. But it's difficult. I feel like Trump really caught on to something with this drain the swamp rhetoric. And, he really did reach a lot of people, especially, independent voters, non-regular voters, who are just like, yeah, everything's corrupt. Finally, someone's saying it. But nobody did the thought exercise of what would happen for a guy who's like, yeah, you think that things were corrupt before? Just wait till I get in there. And we did see this his first term. It's not like this came out of nowhere. There was the Trump Hotel that was basically an espionage ring, right near the White House. I
Right.
mean, we've seen the infiltration of Mar-a-Lago, by spies, and all this happened before. But somehow we decided that because of the fact that Joe Biden was old and prices were high, that maybe Donald Trump would not steal from us again. But Donald Trump has decided, wow, you guys decide to vote for me again. Here's some next level corruption that you have never seen before.
It's his version of the mandate, right? I told you that I was going to grift. I did it the first time.
Right.
I committed all of these crimes and you voted for me again. It's a mandate for me to continue doing this.
Right. And the courts didn't stop me. And so now I'm going to control the courts. And the Supreme Court has said, cool, bro.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, everyone does it. Like, I mean, imagine me robbing a bank and just being like, you know what? Other people rob banks? What?
The Dow's over 50,000.
Yeah, yeah, right. For the first time ever, Trump is winning. Why are you gonna get on my back about this?
Yeah. Well, it's striking that anybody who calls for any accountability for this president just gets put on the enemy's list. I mean, Thomas Massie is an arch conservative from Kentucky. I mean, he's the guy who years ago you saw the Christmas card picture with his family with the AR rifles. I mean, this is not a liberal dude. And, he just happened to actually believe the rhetoric about the Epstein files and that this needs to become public. And he has taken on President Trump over this. And as a result, he is facing a barn burner of a primary, even though he votes for Trump all the time. He's just said, hey, we need accountability for the Epstein files, and Donald Trump should not stand in the way of this. There was a clip of him on one of the Sunday shows that I thought was pretty striking.
Yep.
Ability. And just very quickly, if you will, you've supported most of what Donald Trump has done during his presidency. But because of your actions with these files, he is supporting your primary opponent and has waged very personal attacks on you. I know we just have a few seconds here, but just your reaction to that.
Look, this is about the Epstein class, the people who are funding the attacks against me. They may or may not be implicated in these files, but they were certainly rubbing shoulders with the people who are in these files. They're billionaires who are friends with these people, and that's what I'm up against in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump told us that even though, he had dinner with these kinds of people in New York City and West Palm Beach, that he would be transparent, but he's not. He's still in with the Epstein class. This is the Epstein administration, and they're attacking me for trying to get these files released.
And again, I'm going to say President Trump has not been accused of anything criminal here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Here is doing a lot of work.
Here. Yes. Like in the last 10 minutes regarding the comments that you just spoke. So,
there were indictments of, and about 92 crimes that, he was indicted for.
Yes. Patrick in the chat, and Patrick, looks like you've got a new thumbnail on your profile. Nice work, my man. He says he's a weirdo. Either the chemtrails and 5G towers are starting to work on Massie and MTG, or he's just randomly on the right side here. I don't know.
A broken clock, but I mean, like, honestly, unlike, I would say, Lauren Boebert, who jumped on the bandwagon, met with survivors, and then said, I don't even care about the Epstein files. I got more important things to do.
Right.
I mean, Thomas Massie was like, this is important. I think there's a conspiracy here. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. And it's Thomas Massie aside, it's the right move in this case. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the presidency. Like when Bush came in, I was pretty pissed. I didn't like George W. Bush. I was a lefty and all of that, but
And you should read Sam's Lincoln log from over the weekend, where he goes into a little of that and kind of the history of media in this country and dates it back to that era.
It's pretty crazy, the links there. Also, like I've gotten a little off the initial mandate of the Lincoln log. I apologize, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. Nonetheless, yeah, you don't, there's a sort of factionalism that's happened over the past 25 or 40 or 50 even years that's slowly developed. And then it slowly developed, and then all at once it developed, where you have to hate, the opposition, and then the opposition sort of grows into this hateful mass that it's easy to hate.
Mhm.
I don't know, Thomas Massie. I feel like one sort of ongoing disease of Trumpism is the far right challenge in primaries, right?
Yeah.
And when you have uncompetitive races in districts like his, then the only opening is to the right.
Right.
And it's a ratcheting effect. It ratchets to further and further extremism. That's why Dems have to run everywhere.
Yeah. And, I think we saw for a good 20 years that it was, as long as you can get to the right of someone, you
Yes.
can beat them in a Republican primary. Now it seems like Trump is the ultimate litmus test, because Thomas Massie, I'm not sure you can get further right than this guy. I mean, like maybe Attila the Hun, I'm not sure, but he has displeased the king on Epstein, and so therefore he must go. And if you're not in lockstep with Trump 100% of the time, you are vulnerable to a primary challenge. And, that gets to the heart of, what President's Day is not supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be undying loyalty to a singular figure. It's supposed to be about this great democratic experiment, and we're at 250 years of it. And we haven't seen it imperiled this much, honestly, since the Civil War.
No, we haven't. And, the Civil War was, I mean, look, we're not going to get into the causes and complexities of the Civil War. That's why we have Heather Cox Richardson. But it wasn't about an autocrat. It wasn't about paying fealty to a single man above everything else. Right? It was terrible, and it ripped us apart. But it didn't totally challenge our system of democracy in the way that this is. It's not saying like democracy actually, no.
Yeah. I think there's one more clip that we have that, we can play. It's of Tom Homan again. But I thought that the ending was really striking, where he is demanding thank yous from the people of Minneapolis for occupying them and killing citizens. So that's fun.
Thanks, as you mentioned, but it appears that Governor Walz and Mayor Frey want to send a bill to the federal government. Here's a little bit of what they have been saying. Listen here.
$103 million in economic impact in just January alone. And so we're calling on the federal government to fully step up, to provide direct financial assistance to our city.
The federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it.
Tom, your reaction?
A lot of things were broken, but it wasn't because of Trump administration. The border, last 4 years, over 10 million illegal aliens crossed that border. That was broken. Where were they then? Did Governor Walz speak out against that with the overdose deaths and the sex trafficking and the no respect to terrorists? No. They broke the border. President Trump fixed the border. They let millions of people in this country illegally release kids to unvetted sponsors. President Trump's fixing that. And what did the state of Minnesota break? They were a sanctuary state. Their county jails weren't working with us across the state. So you know what? We fixed it. They ought to be saying thank you. The state's safer because of that. And President Trump gets another win. President Trump gets a win every day. Every day he's winning, and I'm just proud to be a small part of this administration.
Real quick.
First of all, I enjoy the Fox News anchor who was like, yeah, of course, because that's great journalism. But I mean, like, literally, it's like all Trump does is win. I mean, it's just like listening to a North Korea press conference at all times. But yeah, so Minnesota is safer. Minneapolis is safer, even though 2 of the 3 murders that have been committed in 2026 were committed by ICE agents, by Border Patrol agents.
Look, the 2 Joes had Garrett Graff on last week, who had written about ICE extensively in an incredible piece, and the findings were that on average, since something like 2003, an ICE agent had been arrested every day, not like every day of the week, but every day since 2003. Right? The crime rate among ICE agents is dramatically higher per capita than the people that they're after. Right? And this is a huge thing that we can't let slip about the modern Republican Party, is that they don't effectively solve problems. Everyone, me included, when Obama deported millions and millions of people, we were like, what are you doing, man? Can we figure something else out? But you know what? He did it without destroying American cities, without murdering citizens, without terrorizing children, without all of these other things. He was like, all right, the border is an issue for me. I'm going to try to solve this problem. He did it administratively. I didn't love it. Not everyone loved it, but there's a way to solve these problems without shooting people in the fucking face. That's the point. And Homan doesn't care. This is
he enjoys it. Clearly.
He enjoys it, and they all do. The violence and the terror, that is the point.
Right. Because as we've discussed, if this were really about illegal immigration, they would be doing this in Florida or Texas, not in the icy white north of Minnesota, where, I guess technically it's a border state with Canada, but not a hotbed of illegal immigration.
No, they're not looking for Canadians.
No. And thanks to Brett Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court, racial profiling is, the law of the land. And that's how, you get reports like that story out of Idaho with ICE agents that would literally divide people by race when they were arresting them, which, sounds like something out of a dystopian sci-fi novel. So fun times to live in.
It's real. Happy President's Day.
Happy President's Day. Well, we have some good comments. We have Ruth Taylor, 1450. She says the only way for us to have a blue wave is for everyone to get off their butts and vote, which is a good President's Day message. Remember, the large group of voters helped get the orange Jesus back in office by not voting for anyone, which is an excellent point.
Yeah. Guys, everyone in the chat, I love you guys. If you have questions, by the way, always ask them in the chat. You can see my eyes like looking here and looking there. I'm always reading what you have to say. We also, coincidentally, we were meant to have Trygve Olson on today. We're going to get him on another time. We're having some technical difficulties, but he has an app that he's developed that is super cool. And we really want to talk about it, but it ties into a lot of this stuff. It is an app that's built to help you foster conversations with the other side, with friends, with family, with people you're coming into a friction with. It's really a compelling thing. So stay tuned for when we can get him back on.
Yeah, the app is called Listen to You. And you probably got an email from us over the weekend where we were telling you about it. It's perfectly free. It's basically, if you're just kind of at a loss where those Thanksgiving dinners, or when you go to the PTA meeting and people are just saying things that make you not want to come back, but you still want to be friendly with these people. You don't want to cut off relationship with your uncle in spite of the fact that he shows up to every event with a MAGA hat. There's really interesting techniques that they use about how you can have a real conversation and not just a debate where it's all about winning. It's about trying to have those difficult conversations with people. So we're not in these silos, because I can tell you it is a huge problem where people live in information bubbles. And if you are just caught in the MAGA media empire, you probably think that Alex Preddy was orchestrating a mass murder of ICE agents out there instead of just a guy who was gunned down in cold blood for, exercising his constitutional right to protest. And, the more that we can get through to people, the better. So I really admire what they're doing over at the Democracy Fund and the Democracy Investment Fund. Trygve and Erin Dobson will be back on Lincoln Square to tell you all about what they're doing and how they're hoping to make a difference in these midterm elections, because this is such a crucial time.
It really is. And, Rhonda Foster, hey, Rhonda in the chat says, Susan and Sam, thanks for doing this. People are struggling to keep up with all of this and remain mentally healthy. And I think apps like what he's creating are feel like a salve a little bit. And Rhonda, Susan and I feel it deeply because we have to pay attention to everything and figure out, what is important and what is not important. And that has been a real challenge with Trump, as that so much of the stuff he does is just pure performance, but underneath it is stuff that is actions he's taking that will affect our governance, our culture, our children for generations. So it is important to figure out what to sort through. I always think of it like when you're having anxiety or when you're having stress and everything's confusing and you don't know where the stress is coming from. If you journal it, right? If you can list the things, it starts to feel manageable. And this we can solve. We will do this. We have to. We have no other choice.
Yeah.
So mental health is key.
Yeah, and that's why I love our community here at Lincoln Square. And I just want to invite you, if you're not already a subscriber, you can do so for free. You can see what we're about. We have just great articles out there from Stuart Stevens, Joe Trippi, Rick Wilson, so many other really important people out there in politics and policy, as well as all of the shows that we do, interviews with people, members of Congress, people who are running for office. We love talking with people who are on the ground reporting, like in Minneapolis. I think those have been some of the most meaningful shows to me that we've had this year. And so please, we want to continue to grow and reach more people. And if you subscribe to Lincoln Square, you're helping us do that.
Yeah. And Arlene Mock says, I watch a lot of cheesy disaster movies. That also helps.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. Whatever you need to get through things, totally support that. Everybody needs to unwind a little bit. And certainly I think, we support that 100%. We're here for you when you want. You can turn on these shows, and when you need to go watch, an episode of Family Guy or something, we get that too.
Mm-hmm. So what do you have coming up this week?
Yeah. Well, we have Harry Dunn, who is running for Congress. He was a police officer on J6. And he will be with Bobby Jones on Anchor Watch. And I think we've got a little bit of his campaign commercial.
I once told Congress I did my job. Now you do yours. Well, I'm done waiting.
I'm Harry Dunn, and I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 5th District. I was born on Andrews Air Force Base, where my father proudly served. I'm a product of Surrattsville High School. Go Hornets. I trained at Cheltenham. This community raised me. I know the people here, and I know what working families are up against. I served my country. Now, I want to serve the community who made me who I am. So tell Donald Trump I'm coming back to the Capitol, this time with a vote, with oversight authority, with subpoena power, with the full constitutional authority granted to a member of the United States Congress. I'm ready to finish the job that I started. I will defend this country again.
It's great. Great spot.
Yeah. I think that accountability message is really important because, I mean, this kind of goes to what we've been talking about. There is so much going on out there, so many terrible things that this administration is doing. But the number one thing that a Democratic Congress can do is provide oversight and accountability. And let me tell you, these people desperately need it.
Yeah. And especially now there's talk of, the Senate possibly being in play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We need folks like him in the House. We just have to.
We'll have a sitting member of Congress stopping by this week, Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico. She is supposed to be with us on Thursday, and she has been one of the leading voices on accountability for the Epstein files. These were her comments after the Ghislaine Maxwell non-hearing over the last week.
Yeah.
That there are more than 36 associates, family members, and individuals directly associated with Donald Trump named in those files. Now, there are now at least 9 or 10 other countries across the world that have opened investigations or forced their leaders to step down because of their mere association with Jeffrey Epstein. And the United States government is engaged in an active cover-up of the largest sex trafficking scandal and influence peddling scandal in the history of the United States, and Donald Trump is right at the center of it. And the person who is living to provide the evidence, who knows what is going on, is trying to invoke the Fifth to buy her clemency.
Look, this goes back to what we were saying earlier. Every thing about this government is in service to the one person, and to broaden that out a little bit, every action taken by a Trump official is in service to the calcification of power of white men.
Yes,
everything goes back to that.
Yep. We are also supposed to talk again with survivor Jess Michaels about the Epstein files. She is just incredibly eloquent and was there on Capitol Hill for Pam Bondi's hearing. She's going to share her thoughts of what it was like to sit 6 feet away from her during that performance. I am really looking forward to talking with her again on Tuesday. It's always such a powerful conversation with her.
It really is. Yeah, it's really must watch. It really is.
Yeah. Also, our good friend Stuart Stevens is in Ukraine again. And so we're hoping that he will be able to be our foreign correspondent out there this week. We will definitely keep you posted on that.
Yeah. Just still waiting for word. That guy is everywhere. He's the best.
Yeah. You never know what he's going to say. You know, when he came to Sam and I was like, you know what? I got to go back to Ukraine. We're like, that tracks. Makes sense.
Got it. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I expected this call to come any day.
And on Fridays, you have a new show with Max Burns, which is a lot of fun, where you kind of wrap up the absurdity of the week.
It's fun, and it's, it can be kind of difficult. And I think my column Winners and Losers has always been like an attempt to just have a little bit of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to have fun these days because everything is so dark. So it's, winners and losers our conversation with Max is not always the funniest and most fun, but it's at least an attempt to sort of wrap up the weekend with some perspective.
Right. Absolutely. Well, our weekly assignment for all of us is tell your member of Congress to impeach Pam Bondi. That is a fun one. That will be a fun project for us all. We've made it easy for you. We've got a link for you where you can get in touch with your member of Congress. Just this QR code will take you right to it. But there are a lot of reasons to impeach Pam Bondi, but I feel like if you were on the fence, all you had to do was watch her performance in front of Congress last week on the Epstein files, where she just refused to dignify survivors, wouldn't answer questions, was yelling. This is not what we need from an attorney general.
No, and we don't need to talk about it now. I know we're wrapping up, but there was something also so tragic about that performance because it felt like we were watching someone hit bottom. Right? It was akin to sort of, I don't know, walking past somebody overdosing on drugs on the street, or it was just a deeply human disassembling of someone's soul or spirit in front of cameras. Like I don't know. It was just awful.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, in an administration full of the worst people, it still stood out for being terrible.
It did. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this week. We will let you know when Trygve and Erin will be back to talk about their app, Listen to You. And in the meantime, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to Lincoln Square. We'd love to have you here.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Sam.
See you next time.